Hello everyone, welcome back. Now some of you must be already knowing that I am a baker as well, a home baker. So from the experience that I've had in baking over the past few years, I have collated a few basic tips that can make your baking experience much better. So let's jump on to that. Tip number 1. Always have a set of measuring spoons and measuring cups. Even if you have more than one set, it's so much better. Measurements in baking are almost every time done through such measuring cups and spoons.
I have two types of cups with me, 200 ml and 250 ml, and then there are also the tablespoons and teaspoons that are much required in measuring ingredients in baking.
Tip number 2. Now, most of the recipes in baking call for measuring the dry ingredients at a leveled basis. Now, how do you do a leveled measurement? It's basically nothing but you fill in the measuring cup or the spoon that you're using for that particular recipe and level the ingredient that you have filled in the cup or the spoon. How do you do it? Let me show you.
Here I'll be showing you flour as a dry ingredient to show the examples. Fill the measuring cup or the measuring spoon with the flour way above the brim. After that, using the back of the blade of a knife, you can remove the excess part of the flour that is above the brim of the cup or the spoon. This same thing can be done using the back of the leg of a spoon or even a fork, like this. The easiest but a bit inaccurate would be using your hand.
3. Kitchen scale. Some of the measurements provided in a particular recipe might not be in cups or it might be given in cups, but you're not sure what the cup size is. Is it 250 ml or is it 200 ml? So in that case, you could go and check for what the metric conversion is in terms of grams. And in that case, you will need a kitchen scale. Kitchen scale is always a good asset in one's kitchen. It's not only good for baking but also for cooking purposes. Again, you get kitchen scales in online forums as well, and they're not much expensive either. Okay, so the next one is most of the recipes for cakes and cupcakes call for butter and sugar to be blended well first. That's how usually the process begins. But at the same time, there are certain other recipes also which call for oil instead of butter. So in that case, you do not blend oil and sugar first, but you blend egg or whatever the substitute of egg was there, if it's an eggless recipe, with the sugar first, because oil and sugar is not easy to blend well and you might not get a smooth batter if you do it otherwise. So if it's butter, then butter and sugar goes first and then only come the remaining ingredients. But if it's oil instead of butter, then it's the egg or the substitute of egg with sugar that goes first, and then only you add oil later. I'm sure most of you know about this. There are substitutes for eggs if you prefer an eggless recipe. So you could check out so many charts that are available online which show how much of what other ingredient that you could use instead of eggs, say flax seeds or bananas or curd. So accordingly you can use those. But at the same time, I would also recommend that try to go for those recipes which are actually meant to be eggless, because I have tried replacing eggs with bananas or curd in those recipes which were not actually meant to be eggless, and they did not turn out well. So that is one tip I would give from my experience, that try to stick to those recipes which are actually tagged as eggless, instead of trying to make certain recipe which in fact is supposed to be the one with the ingredients at room temperature. This is a very important tip that you need to follow if you are into baking. Most of the recipes require the ingredients to be in room temperature. So if you have say for example butter in the recipe and it's there in the fridge and you're just taking it out right before you're going to make your batter, it's not going to work out. Even if you melt it, there might be a difference in the consistency of the batter that was originally required to be. So it's always better, if you're planning to bake that particular day, just take out the butter at least a few hours before, depending on the climate of the place or the location you are at. Consider that as well. At the same time, there are certain recipes which call for certain ingredients only to be cold. Like for example, if you see my pastry dough recipe, I've provided the link below in the description box. In that you can see you need cold butter itself. Now the other ingredients, all of those are in room temperature, but the butter definitely needs to be cold. So in that case, there is an exception. So for all these tips that I'm mentioning here, there will be certain exceptions here or there, but these are the tips otherwise to be generally considered. So while preparing cake batter, if you have already done that, you might have noticed that first goes the butter in a general way, is what I'm saying. First goes in the butter and the sugar, and then the eggs, and then vanilla essence, and then goes in the dry ingredients. And probably you might have to add another liquid ingredient later on. So there is a chance that once you add the egg, the batter might look a little curdled, as in, you know how buttermilk turns out to be, right? So the curdling effect can be avoided. This does not happen every time, but if it happens, you do not need to worry at all. You can just add a little from the dry ingredient. Say if you're using flour, all-purpose flour, you can just add 1 or 2 tablespoons of flour into that curdling, and then the curdling effect stops. So then you can go back to blending well again and then adding the remaining of the ingredients. This is done so that you can first of all get the first few ingredients blended well before you start adding on the dry ingredients. Cookie batters are more thick in consistency compared to cake and cupcake batters, so you don't want to whisk them too much either if you're using an electric whisk or a beater, because the more that you whisk, the batter gets warm, and you don't want that thin consistency for a cookie batter. So it's always better to go with just a spatula for mixing a cookie batter, but for cake and cupcakes, go for the electric whisk or hand whisk, whichever is required. Alternating liquid and dry ingredients. So what you have to do is keep your dry ingredients sifted way ahead. Once the eggs and the vanilla essence is blended into the initial batter, alternate with flour and the milk. Now whatever the dry ingredients are, the dry ingredients usually are flour plus baking powder or baking soda plus salt. So these are usually the dry ingredients. If you are having cocoa powder, that also, yes. So 1/3 of the dry ingredient goes first, mix it, then half of the liquid ingredient goes into that, again mix it, then the second 1/3 of the dry ingredient goes into the batter, then after that the last half of milk, then the last 1/3 of the dry ingredient, and then you can give it a proper mix. First of all, add the half of the dry ingredients, mix it, then add all of the milk or the liquid ingredient, mix it, and then add the remaining dry ingredient. So you have to alternate between dry and liquid ingredient. Now why do you do this? You need to get a smooth texture for the batter. Now if you had just simply added all the dry ingredients first and then poured in the liquid ingredient, first of all, it might not be easy to blend those ingredients well in this case, or otherwise even if you add milk first and then you add all of the dry ingredients, there's a possibility the batter might not get mixed very well. But this way you can ensure that the batter is smooth enough and everything is blended really well. Again, the tip is, do not over mix your batter, or even not mixing it as much required is also not recommended. If you do these, the cake might end up having a dome shape, maybe more of a peak, or it might have a flat shape. The center might become even have a dent kind of form. So you don't want that. Just the right consistency is that you have mixed just at the point when every ingredient is blended well. Once you see that, don't try to mix much, or at the same time you need to make sure that everything is blended well. So that's the point when you need to stop blending the batter. Now this tip, I'm pretty sure most of you already know about it. When you're filling up the batter in your cake pans or even your cupcake liners, don't fill till the brim. You need to fill only 2/3 of the pan or 2/3 of the cupcake liner. Now there is one other possibility, that if you're using baking soda in any of these, say in cupcakes especially, better to go for only somewhere between half and 2/3 of the cupcake liner. Okay, the next one is greasing your pans on time and effectively. Now, how to grease your pan, the cake pans? I've given the link below. I've already done a video on that, so that you can find the link for that in the description box below. Now, why do I say on time? You need to grease your pans and line the parchment paper on the pan if it is required before you start making the batter. You don't want to hurry up things. Now, most of the times before I start making the batter, I keep my oven to preheat. You would have seen this in many recipes, that the first instruction that will be given in that particular recipe is preheat the oven to so and so Fahrenheit or Celsius, and then it would be given grease your pans and keep it ready. So that is how it should be done, because it's better not to keep it on the counter for long. So preheat your oven while you're making your batter, and if you have already greased your pans on time, then after you make your batter, immediately dump it into the pan, and then the preheating would have been done by then. So you can just thrust the cake pans into the oven on time, so the batter does not stay out on the counter for long. Coming to preheating, you definitely need to do preheating before you bake anything at all in your oven. Even if it's your microwave oven, I would highly recommend not to go for, I repeat, not to go for the preheat option if it's already there given in the microwave options. Now, if there are beginners here and you are not much familiar with what exactly preheating is, it's basically you are heating up the oven at the same temperature that you are going to bake the cake for at least 10 to 15 minutes without anything inside the oven. Of course, the racks of the oven need to be there itself. So by doing this kind of preheating, you are providing the batter of the cake or the cupcakes or whatever baking you're doing an atmosphere which is already warm enough to start the baking process right on time. That's what preheating is. Another tip I would like to give is that cover your cake pan with aluminum foil. So cover in the sense the bottom part should definitely be covered and the sides also. This is from my experience. I have noted that if I do not cover the pan with the aluminum foil, there is a tendency for the bottom and the sides only to become more brown. I wouldn't say burnt, but more brown than actually required. So to avoid burning as well as have a consistent color throughout the cake, I think it's better to cover the cake pan with aluminum foil. Metal pans heat up very fast. I do this even for my cupcake pans as well. Even though I keep cupcake liner inside the cupcake pans, I still wrap up the bottom part of the cupcake pans with aluminum foil. This is very helpful in not getting too much of brown color on the sides and the bottom of the cakes or the cupcakes. do not cut into or do not slice into a hot cake, especially if you're planning to decorate that cake. Then it's always better you give it some time to cool first and then only slice into it. Why? What will happen otherwise? If you cut into or slice into a hot cake, it will crumble down and you would not get the shape that you would have wanted it to be. Now, if it's a tea cake and that you wanted to eat it with your coffee or tea for your snack, and you're in a hurry because, yeah, the cake smells so delicious, you can't just wait to get enough of it, then yes, go and cut into it because you're using it for your home purpose. But yes, if you are decorating the cake later on for maybe an order, or even if it's for your own home, you want it to be intact, so avoid slicing into a hot cake. This applies to breads also. Sometimes the new ovens especially might have to go through a kind of like an initiating process, I would say, because see, for my oven, it's a prestige oven. When I bought it, although I used to keep the batter at 180 degrees, my batter used to get burnt up. So I had a tough time trying to understand why exactly my cake is getting burnt, although the temperature, everything is correctly done. So always have your temperature check done using an oven thermometer preferably, and don't worry if your cakes are getting burnt, maybe this is the reason, so you can fix it this way. Next one, toothpick test. All of you know about it, I'm sure. How do you check if your cake is baked correctly? Now, if the recipe says that you need to bake it for 35 minutes, are you sure after 35 minutes it's done? Because maybe in your oven it might require even less or even more. How do you know? So why don't you do one thing? If it says 35 minutes, keep it for 30 minutes and then check it once with toothpick test. How do you do toothpick test? Insert a toothpick or a skewer in the center of the cake or the cupcakes, which are in the center part of the cupcake pan. If the toothpick comes out clean or the skewer comes out clean, or maybe even if it's just dry crumbs, then it's done. But if it's still moist or if it's still liquidy, the batter is, then that means you have to keep it for longer. Depending on how moist or how liquidy the batter is still, you can increase the time again and bake it. Earlier I said that you need to let your cake cool down. So if it's any other bake like puffs and all, definitely you would want to have it warm. So don't worry about that in this part. But if it's your cake, please allow it to cool down first. But yes, don't let it be in the cake pan for more than 20 minutes or maybe more than half an hour. After 20 minutes, take it out of the pan. It's always better to invest in a cooling rack. Now, if you do not have a cooling rack, maybe with your microwave oven, you might have gotten those round shaped racks that you can keep inside the microwave oven for grilling and all that. You can use that also as your cooling racks. Those were my first set of cooling racks. It always works. When you whip cream, heavy cream or double cream, when you're whipping it, how do you know what consistency you need for? If it has reached stiff peaks or medium to stiff peaks, somewhere in between that, your cream is ready. Now, how do you find out that? I put up the link for that also in the description below. Please go through that. Last tip is that, now if you are a person who does not want much of white sugar to be incorporated in your baking, if the recipe calls for say half cup of sugar, the white sugar, it might not be necessary that you can substitute half cup of honey itself. If you're using brown sugar, maybe it might not be exactly half cup itself, that might be the substitute. So please check the recipe properly. If the author has already given a substitute for that, check what quantity also they have mentioned there, because sometimes like if you're using too much of brown sugar, the cake might have a caramelization effect or a sticky feel. You don't want that in your cake if that was not how originally it should have been. Not all substitutes may have the same quantity measurements required. Now I need a whole bottle of water. I think I spoke a lot. I hope these tips come handy for you all. Let me know your feedback in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more videos. See you soon. Bye bye.